Discover the incredible moment an Italian Mafia boss transformed a young woman's life at 10 p.m. The neon sign from the diner flickered against the encroaching dusk as Amelia wiped down the counter for the last time that night. Her eyes drifted to the clock, each tick reminding her of the hours spent juggling labor and classes, a tightrope act wearing thin. With her mother's health declining, she bore an unbearable weight, awake at night with worries layered atop a meager pay. Both love and resentment battled within her like a relentless storm. She felt invisible, entangled in a web woven from sacrifice and desperation. As the diner emptied, the door swung open with an unwelcome gust. Giovanni. Discussed in hushed whispers, the mafia boss filled the space with an air heavy with danger and allure. Their eyes met, and for an infinite moment, he regarded her with curiosity. The thrum of expectation hung thick. She quickly turned away, her pulse quickening in the awkward silence. But he, intrigued by her fierce spirit etched in fatigue upon her face, spoke up. "Listen, Amelia," he began, voice low yet commanding. "You're not like the others. I respect your fight. Let me help." Guilt knotted in her stomach. Help from him meant stepping into treacherous waters, but she hesitated. His offer tangled with her moral compass, a boundless chasm separating want from risk. The very idea that this man, who thrived on intimidation, saw potential in her ignited a flicker of ambition at odds with her fear. Before they could delve deeper, chatter ripped through the air. A nearby booth whispered Giovanni's name in fear and intrigue. Betrayal, elimination, the cost of loyalty. Her heart raced. This man held a volatile power. In one fluid motion, actions she deemed benevolent spun into something dark. Anxiety skittered through her. Was she willing to put her future on the line for a mentor entrenched in the shadows? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A clammy fear washed over her as she weighed Giovanni's secure internship against the unknown consequences that loomed like storm clouds. Would her mother's fragile health permit her to chase a shimmering dream if it meant risking their safety? Doubt gnawed at the edges of her ambition. She envisioned texts flashing across her phone revealing secrets she wished to bury, yet here stood Giovanni, offering a lifeline woven with peril. The diner was quiet now, the weight of the world shifting in her mind. What would she sacrifice for opportunity? The implications echoed loudly as she stood frozen, the dim light casting shadows over her conflicted thoughts. The door clicked open again, laughter rippling in, but all she felt was the chaotic cacophony of her racing mind. Amelia knew she faced uncharted territory. And as Giovanni turned to leave, murmuring about their next meeting, her body felt heavy with unmade decisions. The world outside the diner glimmered under the night sky, both tantalizing and terrifying. The choice laid bare before her, daring her to step forward into a reality that could redefine her life. Would she grasp the ambition outstretched by his network, even as she glimpsed the darker bargains laced within? The bell over the diner's door chimed softly as Giovanni stepped outside, leaving Amelia surrounded by the hum of fluorescent lights and the relentless ticking of the wall clock. In that moment, she felt suspended in time, her heart a mix of temptation and dread. She wiped the counter again, albeit absent-mindedly, her mind racing through potential futures that seemed both thrilling and foreboding. What did it mean to accept help from someone like Giovanni? The very thought twisted a knot in her gut. He was the embodiment of the darkness she had always avoided. Yet, his words lingered, stirring a new insatiable hunger for change. She had spent too long struggling beneath the weight of her circumstances. Was this an opportunity to finally step out of the shadows, or a pathway leading into them? Amelia felt the heat of determination flare as she locked the diner behind her, but the path ahead she had imagined now felt littered with questions. Each day, she observed people who were thriving, creating living lives far removed from the demands of survival. They held ambitions that danced with possibilities, while she remained tethered to her responsibilities. The fear of severing those bonds with her family clawed at her, threatening to reel her back into the safety net she knew too well. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, disrupting her thoughts. The message was from her mother's doctor's office. An upcoming appointment loomed ahead, stirring anxiety that seeped into every crevice of her mind. The appointment could determine not just her mother's health, but also Amelia's financial state. The prospect of medical bills weighed heavily. Was this the moment she truly needed to weigh the risks versus the potential rewards of Giovanni's offer? In the following days, Amelia meticulously constructed a mental map of her priorities. She started jotting down ideas in a tattered notebook, outlining a plan for both her mother's care and her own aspirations. Every list reminded her of her independence, every tick from her pen an act of defiance against the sinking feeling of worthlessness that often clouded her perception. The seductive thoughts of Giovanni's world danced mockingly at the edges of these written plans, daring her to see where they might intersect. The moment came unexpectedly during a late-night study session. Exhaustion gnawed at her, but she felt energized by the pursuit of crafting her vision. She typed furiously about her passions for marketing and entrepreneurship, focusing on how digital platforms could be the key to breaking her chains no matter how far-fetched it might seem. Just as she hit save, her phone blinked again. It was Giovanni, asking to meet the next day. Conflict bubbled in her. Was she ready to face this sinister figure who seemed to ignite a fire within her? The meeting held the potential to change everything, steering her towards unknown waters both exhilarating and dangerous. Maybe she could detect hints of trust amidst treachery, or perhaps the encounter could deepen her sense of helplessness. As she stared at the screen, a revelation took shape within her, a newfound sense of agency. She realized that this wasn't just another decision, it was a test of her resolve. Would she confront the sinister allure of power, reclaiming her narrative, or would she let fear dictate her choices? The gravity of her decision pressed down like a heavy fog as she weighed the possible outcomes and buried secrets even deeper. Everything converged into one clear thought: if an opportunity lay ahead, she might have to confront her own darkness to embrace it. Her heart pounded in her chest as she sent back a one-word reply: yes. The very act felt like stepping off a precipice, but it marked the beginning of her transformation. What awaited her in Giovanni's world? Would the reality serve to uplift her ambitions, or would it ensnare her in new shadows? As the clock struck midnight, a shiver coursed through her. Amelia was no longer just a waitress, she was on the verge of making choices that would forever alter her path. The moment of confrontation danced tantalizingly close, and she knew one thing with certainty: the battle for her identity was about to unfold. How deep was she willing to plunge into the unknown? Amelia stood at the edge of the busy street outside the diner, her heart racing in sync with the rhythm of the city around her. The air smelled faintly of diesel and asphalt, punctuated by the distant sounds of laughter and clinking glasses from nearby bars. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, her resolve hardening despite the uncertainty that loomed ahead. With each step toward the cafe where she was to meet Giovanni, Amelia wrestled with her thoughts. Did she truly understand the weight of her decision? Was there a point of no return hidden within the glamour of his world? The poker game of her life was escalating, playing out in ways she had never imagined. She couldn't help but envision the facade of power Giovanni wore, but under that facade was a ledger of consequences that weighed as heavily as the money in his pocket. Once inside, her eyes scanned the dimly lit room. Giovanni sat at a corner table, his expression unreadable, a chaotic blend of danger and charisma. The shadows danced off his sharp features, and for a brief moment, Amelia felt the past pull at her mother's struggles, the endless nights spent balancing work and care. Would this encounter transform that burden into something liberating, or would it amplify her dormant fears? Amelia, Giovanni greeted, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth, extending a hand toward her. She took it, feeling the warmth of his grip mixed with an unsettling sense of power. He gestured for her to sit, his eyes glimmering with an intensity that both captivated and terrified her. "Thank you for coming. I see ambition in you," he began, his voice smooth yet commanding. "You have potential that others have overlooked. You've been playing it safe." "Safe is all I've known," she replied, the defiance in her voice a fragile shield against her rising anxiety. Giovanni leaned in slightly, his gaze piercing. "But why? Look around. You want more. You want freedom. I can offer you opportunities others have only dreamed of." Amelia swallowed hard, feeling the gravity of his words sink in. It would be so easy to nod in agreement, to follow him blindly into a newly painted world where her aspirations could soar. But beneath the allure of his offer lay dark hints of moral compromises and uncharted ethical territory. Could she handle what might come from walking on the edge of moral ambiguity? What's the catch? She questioned, forcing herself to remain vigilant, a part of her reminding her to keep her wits about her. "Nothing comes without a price." Giovanni chuckled softly, "That's where we find common ground. Success demands sacrifice. But understand this: safety is an illusion. I can teach you how to navigate the risks. You can learn to thrive." His voice wrapped around her like a seductive promise. But with it came an unsettling awareness of her vulnerability. What part of herself was she willing to submerge in darkness to grasp the light of ambition? She wondered if this path would foster her growth or reveal cracks in her character she was unprepared to face. Amelia felt a war waging within her, a desire burgeoning to break free from her limitations while simultaneously undermined by guilt. She glanced away, unable to meet his gaze, grappling with the truths she loathed to admit. There was a certain power in decision, but it also meant acknowledging her own weaknesses. As questions circled in her mind, Giovanni's next words jolted her back. "You have choices to make. Will you allow fear to hold you hostage, or will you step into a new realm where you dictate the terms?" In that moment, each indecisive tick of the clock echoed along with her heartbeat. This was a pivotal crossroads. Her decision could ignite her future or lead her into a labyrinth of shadows. The dichotomy hung heavy in the air, urging her toward an answer that could shift the trajectory of her life. Amelia started, her voice barely above a whisper, and the room seemed to hold its breath, awaiting her declaration. The stakes couldn't be clearer. As she sat there, she realized that her next words could be the spark that ignited a flame of change or the final tether that kept her anchored in mediocrity. The moment was rife with tension, she could feel the weight of choice pressing down, and she braced herself to take a leap. Would she dare to embrace the uncertainty of Giovanni's world? Or would she cling to the safety of her past? The future rested in the balance, and as she opened her mouth to respond, a single thought surged violently through her: the time had come to face her fears and claim her identity. The silence in the cafe weighed heavily, almost smothering. Amelia's heart pounded in her chest as the gravity of Giovanni's proposition twisted in her mind. She felt the tension in the air crackle as she caught the intensity in his gaze. The decision she was about to make was monumental. It was more than just a step towards ambition. It was a resignation to the realities of a world colored by shades of gray. "Amelia," Giovanni prodded, leaning ever closer, the edge of intrigue sharpening his voice. "Are you prepared to stand on your own, or will you cower behind your fears? This is your moment." His words ignited a flame within her, but the shadows of doubt still lingered. Did she possess the courage to reject the safe cocoon she had spun around herself? The city outside continued to pulse, a sharp reminder of the life waiting for her, one filled with potential, yes, but also danger, unpredictability, and choices she had yet to fathom. As she opened her mouth, her throat tightened. "What do you mean by success demands sacrifice?" The question was almost instinctual, her desire to understand the cost of fluttering hope. Giovanni straightened, his lips curling into a knowing smile. "Every ambition comes with strings attached. You'll need to leave behind this version of yourself. The one too afraid to step into the daylight." The room felt colder, the gravity of his proposition becoming more palpable. Amelia's thoughts tumbled, a cacophony of reason swirling around her deeper concerns. What would she need to abandon? Would her ascent strip away the very core of who she was? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be in control? He continued, his tone a mix of challenge and allure. You won't be just another face in the crowd. You can be someone who possesses. You can shape your own narrative. His words were intoxicating. The mere thought of carving out her path made her pulse race, yet it felt like stepping onto a precipice. Amelia glanced toward the window. Outside, the world pulsed with life, while inside she was frozen, suspended in this decision. I need time, she finally replied, resisting the primal urge to leap. The thought of acting impulsively tormented her. Giovanni's expression shifted, a flicker of disappointment crossing his features. Time does not favor the complacent, Amelia. The world outside isn't waiting for you to catch up. You must seize it. He leaned back, the authority of his presence suffocating yet familiar. In that moment, Amelia saw a glimpse of her mother's struggles, the countless nights where taking risks equated to survival. She realized that Giovanni's world mirrored those same choices, a reflection of desperation and hope intertwined. What if I fail? The words slipped out, a soft confession. Then you adapt. You learn. It's either that or remain stagnant, forever tethered to a life that doesn't fulfill you. But let me warn you, every missed opportunity chips away at your potential. With each passing second, Amelia felt the tendrils of fear coiling like a vine around her heart. It was suffocating, yet the thrill of possibility surged within her, promising a life that would embrace who she aspired to be. I can help you, Giovanni pressed, his intensity morphing into something almost paternal. Or you can walk away and settle into the obscurity you've grown accustomed to. I won't chase you, but consider what that may cost you. Amelia wrestled with herself, the weight of each option anchoring her indecision. Suddenly, the sound of glass shattering outside pulled her from her deliberations. A brief flicker of chaos emerged as people rushed to catch a glimpse. It was a stark reminder of the unpredictability of life, the very chaos that Giovanni thrived in. Perhaps she had been too cautious for too long. Maybe it was time to immerse herself in that very unpredictability. All right, she exhaled, her voice steadier this time, resolve slowly building within. I'm in. A smile broke across Giovanni's face, but behind it was the promise of trials ahead. Good choice, Amelia. The real work now begins, and believe me, you have no idea what lies ahead. As she looked into his eyes, the thrill of the unknown gripped her. There was no turning back now. No more safety nets. But even as she embraced this new direction, the realization dawned on her, the price of ambition could be higher than she had imagined. Just remember, Giovanni added, holding her gaze with a gravity she couldn't ignore, in this world, you either lead or you follow. And once you choose, your identity will forever shift. With that, Amelia felt a chilling sense of anticipation, but alongside it, an exhilarating sense of purpose began to take form. What had she agreed to, and what would it demand from her? The answers were buried in the labyrinth she had just stepped into. She felt the tension of the moment settle around her, a coiling energy that promised discovery but also danger. The path ahead was murky, yet unmistakably blurred with promise. Would she navigate its twists and turns, or be consumed by the very power she sought to command? The flicker of fear mixed with excitement ignited her thoughts, spiraling them toward an unsettling conclusion. This was only the beginning, and the shadows around her would soon come into sharper focus. The first morning light sliced through Amelia's bedroom window, igniting the stark white walls with warm gold hues that felt almost foreign. She stared at the ceiling, her mind racing through the implications of her decision. A single choice had thrown her into an exhilarating, yet terrifying, journey. She had crossed a threshold, leaving behind the cocoon of safety woven from her predictable routine, and now she was exposed to the elements. What did it mean to lead? The word echoed in her mind like a clarion call. It conjured images of authority, visibility, and the burden of decision-making. For so long, she had been the one seeking guidance, reinforced by a foundation of reluctance. Now, the potential to redefine herself hung in the air like a ripe fruit, sweet but precarious. Sliding out of bed, she felt a surge of determination wash over her. Dressing for the day felt different, each garment felt like armor for the mission ahead. She adjusted her blouse and practiced her posture in the mirror, absorbing the unfamiliar confidence that came with preparation. As Amelia moved through the streets, every sound, every aroma, pulled her deeper into the pulsating heart of the city. It was alive with possibility, a stark contrast to the stifling boundaries she had known. She was ready to grasp at fleeting moments, each encounter could be a stepping stone toward her new identity. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, startling her from her thoughts. A message from Giovanni flashed on the screen. "We meet at noon. Be prepared." The words were both thrilling and daunting. What did he expect of her? Would he throw more responsibility into her lap, or would he reveal the intricacies of the world she was about to enter? Time crawled until the clock struck noon, and with a deep breath, she stepped into the chosen venue, a discreet conference room in a buzzing business hub that felt worlds away from the cafe. The room was tastefully decorated, yet its ambience hinted at the gravity of the discussions that would unfold within its walls. Giovanni was already there, deep in conversation with several others who appeared equally imposing in their own right. They turned as Amelia approached, their gazes weighing her with a mix of curiosity and challenge. It felt like entering a lion's den, apprehension shimmered in the air. "Amelia," Giovanni greeted her, an appreciative smile flickering across his face. "Today, we'll walk you through the essentials of what our work demands from you." His tone shifted, growing serious. "You need to understand the stakes." As he explained the intricacies of their endeavor, rivalries, alliances, and the undercurrents that dictated the industry, Amelia felt the thrill of learning leaping forward. Knowledge became both intoxicating and intimidating. She could feel the gears of her mind grinding to a halt, racing to process what was discussed. She had never been taught about power dynamics. Ambition in the workplace had always been about climbing gently, avoiding the jagged edges that could cut. The next hour unfurled before her like a complex tapestry, intricate and layered. Giovanni delved into legalities, strategies, and the need to remain one step ahead of competitors. Each detail was a brushstroke, painting a picture of a world where success was shadowed by treachery. As the conversation deepened, her apprehension morphed into a steely resolve. Understanding the battlefield was crucial for survival, and she needed to harness the courage Giovanni believed she possessed. But just beneath her determination, a creeping dread blossomed. Could she really meet the demands of this ruthless arena? Giovanni paused, sensing her uncertainty. "You must confront your fears, Amelia. Each challenge will test your resolve, yet it's in these moments that potential blossoms." The weight of his words hung heavily, compelling her to confront a disturbing thought. What aspects of herself had she been willing to forfeit in exchange for this new identity? The room around her faded into a blur as self-doubt creeped in. She had often viewed herself as a follower, a protector of the status quo. Now she was thrust into a world where choices dictated survival, and she was uncertain whether she would be a leader or merely another tool wielded by those more ruthless than herself. With Giovanni's penetrating gaze upon her, she recalled her decision to join this path. Despite the doubts, she couldn't back away now. This was her chance to forge a new existence, a life brimming with the potential she had only glimpsed until now. "Giovanni," she interrupted, steeling herself. "What if I defy expectations? What if I choose my own path within this?" His eyes glimmered with intrigue, a predatory gleam that ignited her spirit. "In that case, you may surprise even yourself." The challenge echoed in her mind as she left the room, the realization dawning that mastery required boldness. Yet the shadows loomed large. If she aimed high, who would she become? As she prepared to step again into the bustling city outside, a stirring urgency propelled her thoughts. This was no longer merely a quest for success, this was about her very self. She had opened a door, and beyond it lay convoluted paths they hadn't yet dared to explore. Would she chart her own course, or become ensnared in the intricate web of power that draped over everything? The moment of truth was approaching, and with it, the unsettling realization, her choices would soon become the foundation of her identity in ways she had yet to comprehend. Amelia strode through the thrumming streets, her heart pounding with both anxiety and excitement. The vibrant energy of the city now felt like a lifeblood coursing through her veins, invigorating and galvanizing her resolve. She had stepped through a door of possibility, yet the question that gnawed at her mind was how deep this rabbit hole went. Finding herself a small cafe, she took a seat at a corner table, hoping to gather her thoughts. The decor was eclectic, a blend of bold colors and mismatched furniture, perhaps a reflection of the diverse lives interwoven in the bustling environment. Sipping her coffee with trembling hands, she replayed Giovanni's words, "You may surprise even yourself." But what did that mean for her? Could she really carve her niche in this complex game of power? As she sat there, staring at her reflection in the window, she couldn't help but confront the implications of her ambition. She was no longer just a passive observer, she would need to engage, to take risks. A nagging fear coiled in her stomach. What if she failed? What if the path she chose led her to lose herself entirely? Determined to quell her insecurities, Amelia reached into her bag and withdrew her journal, a haven for her thoughts and aspirations. Flipping to a blank page, she began to write, pouring out her fears and hopes in a torrent of ink. Each word felt like an anchor. "I want to lead with integrity," she scribbled fiercely, "but I need to define what success truly means for me." The act of writing clarified her thoughts. She began listing qualities she admired: courage, insight, resilience, and matched them against her self-image. Where did she stand? That same creeping dread reared its head. Was she merely an imposter dressed in the finery of leadership? But the image of Giovanni's piercing gaze haunted her. He saw potential in her, and perhaps it was time she saw it herself. As Amelia finished her reflection, a rush of clarity surged through her. She would not merely react to the circumstances tossed her way, she would approach them strategically. Embracing the dynamics of the workplace didn't mean losing herself. It called for an authentic version of her, a blending of her steadfast values with the audacity to push boundaries. With newfound determination, she left the cafe and headed for her apartment. The shadows lengthened with the setting sun, but they no longer frightened her. They became companions in her journey as she contemplated her first move within this precarious landscape. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, slicing through her thoughts. Another message from Giovanni. "Meet me at La Trattoria at 7 p.m. It's time to discuss your next steps." The implication of urgency sent butterfly flutters through her stomach. Was she ready to delve deeper, to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead? At that moment, Amelia understood that she needed to reclaim the narrative of her identity actively. She would be more than a cog in the machine, she would be a catalyst for change. As she navigated the swarms of people, each face a reminder of her past reluctance, she felt a tremor of courage swelling within. The trattoria loomed ahead, its warm lights beckoning like a siren. Tonight would be pivotal. Amelia recalibrated her internal dial. No more hesitation, she would command her narrative, not let it command her. As she approached the entrance, a daunting thought rooted itself in her mind. She was drawing a line in the sand, separating a timid past from an audacious future. With a deep breath, she pushed open the door, ready to confront whatever awaited her inside, both in business and in herself. Yet beneath her resolute exterior flickered a troubling reminder: stepping into power often meant wrestling with those who wielded it for more self-serving purposes. Seated at the table, Giovanni's eyes fixated on her, his expression unreadable. The question loomed large: would her newfound ambition withstand the trials of the world he represented? As she considered her next move, she felt both the thrill of possibility and the weight of treachery pressing down on her. Tonight would be a crucible, and Amelia was about to learn whether she was forged of fire or simply another flame destined to flicker out. A soft murmur of conversation enveloped the trattoria, but it felt like a distant hum in Amelia's ears. Giovanni's gaze held her captive, and the weight of their impending conversation pressed down on her chest. She had stepped into a realm where power dynamics twisted like dancers in an intricate ballet. Could she keep her footing? "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tempest within. Giovanni studied her for a moment, the corners of his mouth twitching as if fighting a smile. "More than you think, Amelia. Your insights are valuable, and the ability to navigate this world with integrity is rare." His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Was he genuinely interested in her potential, or was she simply a pawn on his chessboard? He slid a napkin across the table, adorned with symbols and coded messages that made her pulse quicken. "This is the network you'll need to understand," he continued. "Connections that may challenge your morals but will equip you with the tools to rise. Are you ready to step outside your comfort zone?" She glanced at the napkin as myriad emotions swirled within her. The idea of embarking on a path lined with shadows was intoxicating yet terrifying. What would it mean to embrace such a life, to tread where trust was a currency? As Amelia thought about the qualities she had just penned in her journal, a flicker of resolve ignited in her. Courage, insight, resilience. Perhaps she was ready to test those traits. "I'm not here for manipulation, Giovanni," she replied, feigning confidence despite the tremor in her voice. "I want to create something genuine. If I'm going to engage with this world, I need to know what it stands for. What will my success mean?" "Success is multifaceted," he countered, leaning forward, his expression shifting into something serious. "You determine that. Are you willing to learn, to see the nuances of this game? Your ability to balance integrity with ambition could be your strongest asset." Amelia's mind raced. Learning meant delving into uncomfortable territory, and standing on that tightrope between ethical leadership and strategic deception felt like a precarious act. Yet, with each heartbeat, she sensed her fears transforming into fierce determination. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her voice firmer, grounded in the clarity that had emerged earlier. Giovanni nodded, sensing the shift within her. "You must start with information. Learn about the players, understand their motivations, and prepare yourself for direct confrontations. Trust will be your greatest challenge, but it can also be your greatest ally." The implications of his words sank in, layering her awareness with urgency. As she contemplated her next moves, she felt an awakening. With every person she studied, every strategy she crafted, she could unveil hidden dimensions of her character. There would be moments where she would falter, but she also recognized the potential for growth in those spaces. As they spoke, she realized that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, each a test of her values, each demanding a response that would define her growth. Tonight was only the beginning. She had crossed into the terrain of moral dilemmas and intricate allegiances. "I'm not afraid of challenges," Amelia declared, emboldened. "This ambition of mine, it's not just about power. It's about forging a new path." Giovanni's expression softened, a hint of approval glimmering in his eyes. "Then let us begin." Yet as they began to sketch the contours of her journey ahead, a shadow flickered at the periphery of her thoughts. Was she truly prepared for the darkness that lay ahead? Power might forge her spirit anew, but she could also lose herself in the process. As they rose from the table to leave, the air seemed charged, heavy with anticipation. Amelia felt the weight of the decisions that lay ahead sink into her bones, her resolve mingling with adrenaline. The flames of dissatisfaction with her past fueled her motivation to embrace every step of this uncharted path. With one last look back, the trattoria dimmed, and she whispered to herself, "The time had come to face the consequences of my choices." What would emerge as she delved deeper into this world? And would her newfound audacity withstand the trials that were yet to come? The neon glow of the city illuminated Amelia's resolve as she stepped from the warmth of the trattoria into the crisp night air. Each breath stung slightly, but it felt refreshing, igniting her senses. She wasn't merely stepping into the darkness outside, she was preparing to navigate the murky waters of power. Giovanni's words echoed in her mind, propelling her forward. "Your integrity could be your strongest asset." Amelia's heart raced as she walked, a mix of excitement and pressure coursing through her veins. She needed to prepare for the challenge ahead. The napkin still felt like a dense weight in her pocket, a tangible reminder of the haunts she would face. She had to approach this opportunity methodically, a chess player anticipating the opponent's moves. As she made her way home, a plan began to form. Rather than diving headfirst into the murky relationships of Giovanni's world, she realized she must first establish her own foundation. She needed allies, not merely contacts. With each person she interacted with, she could test her growing instincts, finding kindred spirits and identifying potential adversaries hidden behind polite smiles. Her initial step was to refine her understanding of the players within their intricate network. A plan was already sprouting. She would compile information on them, using social media and any connections she could harness. She envisioned late-night sessions in front of her computer, research transforming into an intuitive understanding of character dynamics. But deep down, Amelia grappled with another consideration: trust. Could she cultivate alliances without compromising her values? Trust would be as fickle as it was vital. The challenge lay not just in gathering information, but in discerning whom to let in. Her thoughts oscillated between her ethical compass and her ambition. Could she convince herself that winning this game didn't mean losing who she was? The lines blurred in this world where ambition often melded with betrayal. Staring at her reflection in a store window, she caught a glimpse of doubt in her eyes, and it fueled a simmering determination within her. That night, she set up a makeshift desk at home, scattered with journals, pens, and her laptop. Each page became a repository of her transformation notes on strategies, moral philosophies, potential alliances, and even the names on that napkin. As the hours slipped by, her thoughts solidified into a framework. She was becoming a student of the game, yet still clinging to her desire for integrity. Despite the thrumming tension in her chest, she felt more empowered than ever. Reflection was crucial in this journey. She would constantly question her motives, evaluating her decisions against her principles. Failure would be inevitable, but each setback would be a lesson, an opportunity for reinforcement. With a deep breath, Amelia pressed forward into her research. The dawn of a new day would come with the unveiling of new puzzles, and she intended to solve each with a deft hand. As she scribbled her thoughts down, a flicker of an idea burst forth, utilizing smaller local networks to carve out her space in the larger structure. The pull of the unknown surrounded her, and suddenly it was exhilarating. She confronted the possibility of wielding information not just to elevate herself but also to protect her values. The path ahead was profoundly steep and uncertain, filled with moral dilemmas circled with shadows. In the silence of her room, a thought gripped her: what if this journey demanded more than just strategic alliances? What if it forced her to confront the very essence of her identity? She felt a shiver of anticipation. She was on the brink of profound realizations. The following day would introduce her to some of the key players in Giovanni's network. Feeling both dread and excitement, she wondered how they might shape her future. But could she truly balance the weight of ambition with her core values, or would she become entangled in a web of deceit herself? As she prepared to sleep, her mind buzzed with possibilities and fears. The stakes of her choices escalated, and the notion that her very identity could be at risk broke through her steely demeanor. Amelia understood clearly: her journey was not just about rising within this world, but also about discovering who she would become within it. What revelations awaited her in the morning? Each decision would ripple, shaping not just her ambitions, but her soul as well. Morning light crept through the curtains, casting a warm glow across Amelia's desk strewn with notes and scribbled thoughts. She felt the urgency, the weight of imminent decisions pressing down upon her. Today was the day she would meet Giovanni's associates, a pivotal moment that could alter the trajectory of her professional journey. As the golden rays illuminated her plans, they danced with the uncertainty swirling in her mind. Amelia sat up, brushing strands of hair away from her face, and took a moment to gather her thoughts. The mirror revealed a woman whose expectations had shifted dramatically. No longer merely a participant in the business world, she now felt like a player on a vast chessboard, each move pregnant with possibility. She needed a strategy, not just for survival but for a foundation from which she could influence rather than simply react. Doubt gnawed at her. Was she truly ready to breach the territory of powerful figures? The thought of swaggering into a gathering of seasoned industry players stirred her anxiety. Yet, alongside that anxiety, resolve began to take root. She would exchange fear for curiosity and control her narrative instead of letting it control her. Knowing that knowledge was her ally, she delved deeper into research about the players she would meet. She made a list, mental notes from the previous day crystallizing into names and traits. Each person was a potential pivot point, and she started constructing a mental map of allegiances and rivalries, who mingled with whom, who watched from the sidelines, and the intricate dance of respect and intimidation that characterized their interactions. While preparing for her meeting, she pulled out the napkin covered with those fateful names. Each flicker of ink was a reminder of the stakes she was entangled in. Could she leverage those connections to build solidarity? As she examined it, she recalled Giovanni's message: integrity was her strongest asset. Would practicing integrity amidst manipulation render her a fool or a visionary? Amelia's pulse quickened as she recognized an internal conflict emerging. She questioned whether she would encounter distorted values or find kindred spirits in that room. Could she perceive elusive truth amidst the thicket of lies? Arriving at the venue, an upscale lounge punctuated by shadow and light, she paused at the entrance, feeling a combination of trepidation and exhilaration. Inside, she scanned the room, adjusting her posture as she donned a mask of confidence. The atmosphere was electric with conversation, laughter, and the subdued clinking of glasses. She zeroed in on a cluster of familiar faces from her research, her heart racing. Here were the architects of power, each surrounded by an aura of intrigue. In the midst of that crowd, she felt small yet formidable, like a spark underneath a vast night sky. As she approached the group, the initial moments were charged. She was conscious of every word spoken, every handshake executed with precision. Her goal was not merely to fit in but to assert herself, to carve her presence into their minds. She asked questions, probing for depth, observing reactions with a connecting instinct she hadn't fully recognized in herself before. The dialogue shifted when she caught the eye of one person, a charismatic figure exuding dominance. He offered a conspiratorial smile, making her feel seen. This was Lorenzo, a reputed strategist in Giovanni's inner circle. Every interaction was a puzzle piece, and Amelia sensed he could hold pivotal information. The temptation to dig deeper, to test the waters of their dynamic, pulsed through her like electricity. "Ah, Amelia, right? I've heard interesting things about you," he said, his voice smooth as silk, yet tangled in ambiguity. She realized this was her moment, a chance to shape her narrative, to establish herself amid the power accord. Amelia wasn't sure if she felt eager or wary, but she knew one thing: this was not merely a meeting, it was her test. How would she navigate this complex web without compromising her integrity? As she spoke with him, carefully layering her questions while observing his responses, the conversation flowed fluidly. She fed their banter with more than ideas. She offered flashes of insight and hinted at her values, allowing herself to breathe life into her authenticity without surrendering to the bubbling chaos of ambition swirling around her. Yet as their dialogue deepened, the nagging question remained: was Lorenzo genuinely intrigued, or merely assessing her for the ambitions hidden beneath the surface? The stakes were rising, and each fleeting moment felt like a turn of the knife. Could she maintain her balance as she stepped deeper into this labyrinth of power, or would her quest redefine her, tearing at the very fabric of who she was? Her heart thudded in her chest as she navigated the next question: where was the fine line between strategy and manipulation? Amelia felt the world around her narrowing, the crowd swirling into a backdrop, pulling her inexorably into the center of her own labyrinthine choices. This was not just business, it was a reckoning. What kind of player would she choose to be? And as the tension in the air thickened, Amelia knew, the time had come to confront her deepest fears, and she was about to discover a crucial truth that would change everything. Days slipped into weeks, and Amelia thrived within the intricate web of connections she had begun to weave. Each encounter, each whispered conversation, became a lesson in power dynamics and personal courage. She had moved beyond fear, transforming it into fuel, each small victory bolstering her resolve. The weight of insecurity that once clutched her heart began to loosen its grip. She was learning the ropes, and with every maneuver, her confidence solidified. Her relationship with Giovanni matured into a mentor-mentee dynamic, one where she could express her aspirations and expectations. They sat at the same table often, and he questioned her about her long-term goals, helping her define not just what success looked like, but what it ought to stand for ethically. "Remember, Amelia, integrity is a currency here," he reminded her, "one that will serve you better than clout alone." Diving into her methods, she meticulously studied the players within Giovanni's world and the broader industry landscape. Gaining insight allowed her to craft strategies that were not only bold but also aligned with her vision of ethical leadership. To thrive in this arena meant offering value without compromising core principles. Every meeting she attended was no longer merely an obligation but an affirmation of her identity as a leader in her own right. One chaotic afternoon, she received a text from Lorenzo inviting her for coffee. The prospect excited her and filled her heart with anticipation, yet it also stirred unease. Would he see the growth she had undergone, or simply as a pawn, leveraging her skills for ephemeral benefits? The internal conflict waged again, but this time, she was not afraid to confront it head-on. Over the coffee, Lorenzo's demeanor was strikingly warm. He leaned in, engaging Amelia with a genuine curiosity she had not expected. "I've noticed how adeptly you've navigated the room lately. It's impressive. How do you manage to balance those ambitions with your sense of self?" he asked, probing yet respectful. Amelia took a deep breath, recognizing the opportunity. "It's simple," she replied confidently. "I don't let ambition uproot my values. I embrace challenges, yes, but I define success on my own terms." The words flowed naturally, each syllable laced with the certainty that had solidified with each interaction since finding her footing in this world. He nodded in appreciation, a flicker of something deeper sparking in his eyes. "You might find yourself facing a choice soon that will challenge that balance," he cautioned, the gravity of his words settling in between them. "In this game, sometimes paths diverge in ways that test your moral compass. Just be prepared." That night, Amelia found herself reflecting on Lorenzo's words. What choices lay ahead? In the pursuit of ambition, how many more shadows would she have to dance with? Yet this reflection cultivated a burgeoning confidence, a feeling that she could choose her path. Days turned into a crescendo of heightened stakes. An impending merger involving Giovanni's network with deep implications for power in the industry loomed closer. Amelia felt the electric anticipation coursing through her veins, coupled with the understanding that her role would soon require more than strategic maneuvering. She would need to stand her ground amidst conflicting interests. One evening, Giovanni summoned her to his office, a sleek and organized space adorned with accolades that showcased the ambitions he had once championed. This merger would be pivotal, he confessed, staring at the documents that lay strewn on his desk. "I want you to be part of the discussions. Your perspective is unique, and we need fresh eyes." A mix of exhilaration and fear overwhelmed Amelia. This was the opportunity she had sought, but it also draped her in heavy expectations. Would she uphold her identity in the storm of ambition and betrayal? Could she maintain her integrity while navigating through the tides of power? "Thank you for believing in me," she managed to rasp, determination kindling in her chest. As the negotiation day arrived, Amelia stood poised, armed with the insights she had gleaned over the months, but this time there would be no backtrack, she would step forward unhesitatingly. In that tense room, surrounded by influential players and sharp walls, she began to voice her insights, articulating strategies that upheld collective growth while standing firm in her values. The responses were varied, some thoughtful, others dismissive, but her conviction only strengthened. It wasn't until the meeting concluded that Amelia fully understood her growth. The applause and acknowledgement from her peers rang in her ears, but her inner triumph surpassed any external validation. She had not only carved her place beside giants, but she had proven that strength could coexist with principles. The weeks after the merger breathed new life into Amelia's journey, offering her a seat at the table she'd chased for so long. Recognition flooded in, cementing her position in the industry. She could feel the steady rhythm of confidence now. It was a heartbeat of clarity amid the chaos of ambition, signaling her readiness to shape not just her future, but a future where integrity led the charge. In the end, it wasn't merely about power or influence, it was the knowledge that she had become the architect of her own legacy. By embracing who she was while diving deeper into the currents of ambition, Amelia had successfully fused her identity with her aspirations. The shadows no longer intimidated her, they had woven themselves into the fabric of her journey, reminders of the steps she took to overcome self-doubt and misgivings. She had navigated the murky waters, wielding her integrity like a beacon, and emerged transformed, more resolute than ever in who she chose to be. Now, it was time for a new chapter, one filled with the clear realization that she was indeed a player among players, ready to meet the world with courage and conviction. You need to subscribe now to join Amelia on her next exclusive emotional story. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories alive. Comment your reactions and theories about this exhilarating conclusion. Your thoughts matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. Don't wait even one more second to support the journey. Your interactions fuel our community.